Welcome again to Joe's Stunner Boxing. Hope you're having a good week. I've heard a lot of people talk about Tyson Fury's legacy and, has it been ruined by the defeat to Usyk? Well, first of all, I think this can be summed up as a very good example of why I personally don't make any kind of historical judgment on someone while they're still active. Now, there are exceptions. Roy Jones Jr. has 10 defeats on his record, astonishingly. I mean, when he was at his peak, the idea that you could find 10 people over the next 50 years that could beat him would have been unthinkable. But he became a greatly diminished fighter, carried on fighting for about 15 years after he should have packed it in. I guess that's his right to do that, and he was picking up defeats. So while he was active for that last 15 years of his career, I don't think those 10 defeats diminished his historical standing. Not for me personally. This is, of course, completely subjective. But I think generally speaking, you can only judge someone when they've packed it in, and then you review their career, and also the passing of time adds to the judgment, because certain fights, certain victories age better. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes people who are interested in the history of the sport, they then make the judgment. They then assess someone's career. They look at the amount of elite fighters they've beaten, or perhaps, as was the case with one of my favourite fighters, Marvin Hagler, who definitely scored some brilliant victories. There were an awful lot of, like B-level, good quality people he beat, because he was middleweight champ, undisputed middleweight champ for 7 years. They weren't great fighters, the opponents, but they were decent. I think of people like Mustafa Hamsho and, even Alan Minter. Alan Minter was a very good middleweight, but he wasn't, in historical terms, you wouldn't put him in the elite bracket. But Hagler's victory over him was very, very good. It was brilliant. He was away from home, and So you can only assess this once the dust has settled. And to me, you can only talk about Fury's legacy being quote unquote ruined if you bought into the idea that he had a certain historical standing before he lost to Usyk. Now, for me, he never did. I've never ever thought that I certainly never thought that anything that came out of his mouth regarding him being, first of all, the best heavyweight of his era, I never bought into that, even though I thought he might well be. And there was a time in their respective careers when I probably would have picked Fury to beat Usyk. Not by much, but on points maybe. But more importantly, this, really idiotic idea that he was somehow the greatest heavyweight of all time. I mean, if you know anything about the history of the sport, and I know a little bit about it because I've read thousands of magazines, I've read lots of books, and I'm interested in the subject. There was no way on God's green earth you could put Fury at the top of the tree, not with that resume. You have to say, well, what would it be based on? 3 fights against Deontay Wilder, which were, for the most part, very entertaining, but against a one-trick pony with a big right hand. And Derek Chisora, for the 3rd time, that's a fight that should never really have happened. It was a complete farce. Dillian White, who'd been knocked flat twice previously. No. I never ever bought into the idea that he could ever call himself the greatest ever heavyweight. Now, if he'd beaten Usyk and he beat Usyk in the rematch, and then he went on and knocked out Joshua, and if all these, and then maybe beat a few contenders, so I don't know, Ajit Kabayel maybe, and who should we have? I don't know, Jared Anderson as a different generation, somewhat, or a little bit younger. But if he'd gone on a winning streak like all the great heavyweight champions had done, then yeah, you're getting into the mix. You're getting into the argument. Greatest ever, okay. Again, I mean, Lennox Lewis, to use an example, I think he was a great heavyweight fighter, and I followed his career from his opening fight. I think it was Al Malcolm was the guy he fought, journeyman in Britain, all the way up to the Vitaly Klitschko contest. Fantastic to watch that sort of ascendancy, and what a great fighter Lennox was. But he had lots of fights against people who, were good fighters, but they were legitimate contenders. They wouldn't get into anyone's Hall of Fame, but they would, like Franz Botha, for example, he knocked him flat 2. Got rid of I don't know, Galotta in 1, and if you analyse his record, there with any great fighter, not every single fight is going to be an elite level fight, obviously. But if you wipe out the contenders, all the contenders in the division, then you're in the mix. Then you clean out a division. Tyson Fury, as good as he is, and in my opinion, he was for a man of that size, he had tremendous skills. Has tremendous skills, because I don't think his performance against Usyk was as bad as some people are saying. I think it was a relatively close fight, although I can't make a case for him winning. I thought Usyk won I had it 7-5 in rounds, 115, 112. But nevertheless, Fury, he has tremendous skills. But you've got to clean out the division. You cannot do this. Everyone says it's sort of a Floyd Mayweather Jr. thing, where you're saying, okay, well, AJ was beaten twice, therefore why should I fight him? Well, the fact is that you should fight him because you haven't beaten him. Just because Usyk beat him twice and Ruiz stopped him, so what? It's up to you to clean out the division, to get rid of everyone, like Muhammad Ali did, like Joe Louis did. So I never ever bought into this idea of legacy with Fury. It hasn't changed for me, because I was never really judging his legacy at any point anyway. There were points in his career so far where I've said, I think he's the best heavyweight in the world. Probably. He hasn't proved it, but probably. And I think you can only talk about legacy, again, once the dust has settled, once someone's career is over, and then you analyse it in an almost forensic way, and then you come to a conclusion. I mean, clearly Tyson Fury is a very, very good heavyweight. The 2 victories of going to Dusseldorf and beating Klitschko, who I know was aging, but it was in Dusseldorf, and that Klitschko's team, the way he conducted himself, the way they conducted themselves, weighting everything in Klitschko's favour. For Fury to go over there, that was a tremendous win. And also the victories against Wilder, certainly the second one. I should say, no, it's the second fight. Everyone thinks he won the first one, which was a draw. I think he won it as well. But the second fight, to go to America again, away from home, and score victory like that, I don't think you can diminish that. I think that's great. But in terms of legacy, all I can say is, this is just the way I do things is, watch this space. Worry about it later on. It's like people are saying that, Alexander Usyk, what about him in the greatest heavyweight? As the greatest heavyweight, is he in the argument? Is he? Well, he hasn't finished yet, has he? He's got more fights to come. Hall of Fame stuff, leave that for later. That would be that's the way I do things anyway. So what do you think about Tyson Fury's legacy? Are you making a judgment now? I think he'll probably get into the Hall of Fame, but is he, in your opinion, did he prove that he was the greatest heavyweight of his era? Maybe at some point you thought he was, but you hadn't proved it. What's your opinion? Do you have an opinion? Or are you like me and you're just waiting to see how everything pans out? Leave your comments below. Thank you, as always, for your time. I really appreciate it. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. It takes a second, and also hit the like button as well, because they count the likes, so I'm told. And yeah, I'm looking forward to reading your comments. Like I said before, I don't get a chance to answer all of them because there's just too many of them. But I do read them. I spend like an hour before I go to bed just reading through all the comments, because if you're going to give me your time, at least I can do is read them, you know what I mean? Anyway, thank you very much. I will catch you later, ladies and gentlemen, and bye for now.